The OnePlus Ace, or 10R in some markets, is an upper tier budget phone that doesn't quite feel like a OnePlus device. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but something is definitely a little different here with the Ace. The design language is certainly dissimilar to the rest of the lineup, and we have some rearranged and some missing hardware features that we would usually associate with the brand. I'm Michael, and this is my in-depth 2-week review of the OnePlus Ace. Now, after watching a lot of videos online, I can see people's opinions are split on the design. The Ace certainly does not look like any OnePlus phone I've ever seen. In fact, if you removed the OnePlus logo from the back panel, I'm not sure I would recognize this as a OnePlus device. The special word for this design is flat. Very flat and boxy. There are no tapered edges, no rounded corners, no shiny metal-like finishes, and no glossy glass back. Instead, we get plastic rims, a blocky camera cutout, and a slightly raised flat screen. Now personally, in the color I have, I think this design looks nice. I like the flat edges, it actually looks quite classy when you see it in person. I like the flat screen and the buttons. The camera cutout is a little over the top, but I don't think it's awful. And yes, it's made out of plastic, but the build quality still feels solid. The only thing I'm a little confused about is the lack of an alert slider, which is one feature that OnePlus fans and reviewers universally love. Now, although the Ace is a near carbon copy of the Realme GT Neo 3, it does come with better software support and a slightly upgraded chip. OnePlus has promised 3 years of OS updates as well as 4 years of security patches, which is great, and it also comes with the Max version of the MediaTek 8100 chip. The Max version is designed to allow devices to keep a consistent frame rate during gaming sessions, and when playing Call of Duty Mobile, it managed to play on the high setting, not the highest graphical settings, but I could, in combination, select the max frame rate, keeping just below 60 FPS whilst remaining nice and cool throughout my session. Now on PUBG, the game's performance settings wouldn't allow me to choose all of the highest modes, saying that these would be coming to my device in the near future. So instead I had to make do with just normal HD mode, and again I was able to choose the maximum frame rate option, although in the real-time FPS counter it topped out at just 29 FPS during my session. Running Genshin Impact, the game automatically chose medium settings, which actually really impressed me considering that this game is famously graphically demanding, even on high-end ultra flagship phones. So playing on medium settings in a completely smooth manner was a real pleasure. The phone did heat up to around 38 degrees, which is still well within a comfortable temperature, so I decided to switch to the max 60 FPS setting, which apparently would mean the phone overclocking and overheating. Nevertheless, I did so, and during an intense fighting scene, everything, bar a few hiccups, seemed really smooth, and I checked in just under 60 FPS, which impressed me, although the phone did heat up to 41 degrees, which was noticeable. I then cranked up the graphics to their highest settings on top of the high FPS, and for a while it still managed to get that max frame rate, which is awesome, although after 10 minutes it was down to 45 FPS, which I still feel is pretty impressive if you ask me. Now, one of the headline features of this phone is the charging, which is 150 watts, but only for the top spec model. But my 256GB plus 12GB of RAM version only came with 80 watts, which is really annoying, and what's even odder is that my charging brick actually says 160 watts, and when charging, the graphics on the screen say 150 watts, so a really messy job here from OnePlus. The phone still charged quickly, however, taking just 10 minutes to get to 50% and 20 minutes to a full charge. Battery life has been okay, nothing special. The 4500 mAh battery did get me to the end of the day with lots of heavy usage. Overall screen on time was around 6.5 hours, which is neither good nor bad. Now we do get a triple camera system on the Ace, although in my opinion the 2 megapixel macro is not even worth mentioning, and the 8 megapixel ultra wide is also on the verge of useless. The main sensor, however, I think is good enough for everyday shots. It's not industry leading, and I would not recommend this phone for its overall camera system, but I will say that the main sensor has been reliable the entire time I've been using it. It picks up a good amount of detail, colors are not overly saturated or sharpened like on a lot of other budget-friendly phones, and the optical image stabilization just adds another level of stability to the Ace's performance. I did try some portrait shots also and found that while shots came out okay, they were a little soft, but overall edge detection seemed to function well in most situations, and I was happy with the results. The ultra-wide, with its complete lack of optical image stabilization, autofocus and low resolution 8 megapixel sensor gives such a poor performance that the drop off in picture quality between the main sensor and the ultra-wide is only comparable to falling off a cliff. Images come up extremely soft and blurry, and even in perfect light on the sunniest of sunny days, it still doesn't perform as you would expect. There is no telephoto lens on the Ace, but you can digitally zoom in 2 times, which on the occasion that you need it is enough in the daytime. This is the macro lens. There is a night mode that can be used on both the wide and ultra wide. It has the look of older flagships when night modes first started to appear 4 years ago. Shots kind of look like a water painting and are far from natural, with very heavy processing going on to try and overcome the lack of detail. But it's there if you want to use it, although personally I think the photos with the night mode turned off look better. There is 4K video recording up to 30 FPS, but with no stabilization, so you will have to stand still and keep your hands nice and steady if you want the max resolution. I did see some people in the comments of my initial review saying that the Ace does stabilize at 4K, but on my unit at least, this doesn't seem to be the case at all. And unless you use it with a tripod or you stabilize the footage using editing tools in Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, then you will probably have to drop it down to 1080p where stabilization is provided. I also found that the autofocus when shooting in 4K was not great, so something else to consider. The screen on the OnePlus Ace is a 6.7-inch OLED panel with a resolution of 1080p and a high refresh rate that can fluctuate between 60 and 120 Hz. It's not the brightest screen either, with a max peak brightness of 950 nits, but it does have good viewing angles, colors pop and look vibrant, and overall it looks like a nice and decent panel that I've enjoyed using over the last 2 weeks. We do have an optical fingerprint scanner under the display that works well, and there is also 2D face unlock that works plenty fast. The selfie camera is a 16 megapixel f.25 sensor that takes okay selfies. I don't really have much to say about these, they look pretty standard for a phone at this price point. If we look around the rest of the phone, we have a dual SIM card slot, dual stereo speakers at the top and bottom. There does not seem to be any IP rating on this phone, and of course that famous OnePlus alert slider is nowhere to be seen. Now for those of you that don't know, I live in China, and here OnePlus phones exclusively run Color OS, and they have done for a while now. And I've had a lot of problems in the past with OnePlus 9 and 10 series phones running this software, with major lag, freezes and annoying inconsistencies. However, I'm pleased to report that the Ace is running super smooth right out of the box. It certainly does not have the cleanliness and fluidity of Oxygen OS, but it does have a lot of cool features and customization options that are really fun to play around with. Oppo software is actually really well thought out, and I think if OnePlus continue to add their own flair to the OS, then the future software experience on OnePlus phones might not be as bad as everyone thinks. Overall, I would say that people thinking of buying this phone are in a weird position, because you can actually choose 2 completely different designs. The the OnePlus Ace version or the GT Neo 3 version, because they're essentially the same phone with a different skin on top. The Neo 3 is also slightly cheaper, but does come with less software support and a slightly less advanced chipset. But honestly, in real-world use, I don't think you'd notice it. The Ace alone is a curious phone. Its 150-watt charging is one of the fastest, if not the fastest, on any phone. It has a decent main camera system, a powerful chipset, and a unique and cool design, and of course that shiny OnePlus badge. But it's not a flagship killer, and it doesn't kill any phone above it, but it is, at the end of the day, a decent phone. And for more reviews on the latest phones coming out of China, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. That would really help me out. And don't forget to smash that like button and leave a comment so we can push this video further into the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.